All right, good morning and welcome to today's Fire Up training. Before we get started, just a few important notes. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our website. This is where you can find recordings of our past Fire Ups, trainings, product information, and other helpful resources anytime, day or night. Since today's session is being recorded, please go ahead and turn off your cameras and keep your mics muted during the presentation. We'll have a Q&A at the end, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go and hang on to them at this time. Don't forget to put your Fire Up trainings on your calendar for every Wednesday morning through March and attend as much as possible for a chance to win the Pit Boss Pellet Grill. Now, we're going to go ahead and get started with the reason that you're here this morning. We're excited to have Alex Keck, our Newfields Ag Specialty Department BDM here, and he is going to share with us the Agriguard misting systems, success in farm biosecurity. So with that, I'll hand it over to Alec.
Thanks, Jamie. Good morning, everybody. I'm Alec. I'm the division or biosecurity division lead for Newfields Ag. I just want to go through a couple housekeeping items before we start getting into the presentation. This presentation was put together by Secure Logic, and there's some slides in here that we're going to be skipping over, just because they're not really relevant to what we're doing specifically in this field. But today we're going to cover just the story behind how this misting machine came about. We're going to cover a little bit about the two people who invented this and started this company. And then we're going to get into a lot more technical conversation about the misting system, the droplet technology, why it matters, and then just the benefits that go with that. And then we'll start getting into what Newfields Ag is going to sell, called the Agriguard system. And then we'll go over some data that we're seeing currently, and then we'll open the floor to questions. I believe Pat's in this meeting, and Pat, I will throw it to you when we get towards the end to just talk about some of the stuff that we're seeing currently in trials. So, all righty, everybody, let's get started here. All right. So these are the two individuals who developed this misting system, Marty Bouquet and Josh Morvant. They both come from an entrepreneurial background. Marty himself was working in mold mitigation. He had a business for 23 years, and that's where he really started learning about some of these pathogens, certain ways to kill them, and things like that. And so both of these guys have just amazing experience that's very relevant to what we're doing. They've been best friends, for 30 some years, and Josh Morvant is actually the mind behind the design of the machine. So, these guys are excellent. If you guys have ever been to one of our meetings, and they've been there, they're just a wealth of knowledge. If you guys need anything specific or super technical that I can't get you, these are going to be the two gentlemen that we bring in to answer those questions. So this system, the need for it was found during COVID-19. So Marty had a business where he was spraying about 3 million square feet a night, and about 100 different employees running around with backpack sprayers. And through their conversations, they both kind of recognize that having 100 employees is just, it's very hard to manage. Spraying the 3 million square feet every night and trying to schedule this and things falling through, it was just near impossible, or at least just a very monumental task. And so they both kind of turned to each other, and they found a need to where they had to automate and simplify this workflow. And so for about a year, Josh got to work while Marty was managing his business, and they went ahead and developed this spray system. The other piece of this that they would, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you guys about, a lot of this came from the emphasis came from their kids not being in school either, and seeing the effects on their kids not being in school. So when you talk to these guys, I mean, the first thing they're going to tell you is, um, this isn't really about money for them. It was about making sure that kids could get back in school, making sure that they're protecting, the people who are immune compromised, and providing a solution that, again, is just simple and also consistent. So, pathogens are evolving rapidly, right? We have antibiotic resistant pathogens popping up every single day. I think we all saw in COVID how, it started to rapidly change. I mean, I don't even know what strain of COVID we're on right now, but um, this, this is an ever-changing environment with the way the pathogens are evolving. And the one thing that we really need to point out is when you're talking about using these botanical liquids through this misting machine, and I'm sorry, I'm going to throw it to the botanical liquid just real quick, BAC, the disease pressure that these plants see when we harvest actually develops a mechanism to kill these viruses so that they're never actually going to be resistant to this botanical liquid. So that's kind of why this slide is in here. We're talking about just, how the pathogens are evolving over time. So we're going to jump to the Genesis 360 missing system. This is not unlike the Agriguard system that NFA is going to present, but this is the first version of the system that came out. So, patented automated missing system for complete area disinfection, touchless programmable cycles via mobile and desktop control. So this is a very important piece. That programmable control can allow a lot of our end users and customers to set up a schedule just like you would on a thermostat for your air conditioning. And you can run and make sure that that system is running at certain cycles. For instance, right now, in a couple of the barns that we're running a minute 3 times a day. And it helps lower the labor load just so much. So we're going to go, so this has a dry mist. Micro droplet technology covers surfaces and air without wetting electronics. So you can hold this, your hand about 6 inches away from the nozzle, and it's going to be completely dry. And that's due to the droplet technology. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. So this droplet technology, so it puts about 250,000 droplets every second out into the atmosphere per nozzle. So you can imagine, I mean, after a minute, you've got millions of droplets in the air, especially depending on how many nozzles and what your configuration is. So you can really saturate a space with this technology. So our micro droplet tech, using 4 nozzles misting for 10 minutes, produced 2 billion droplets in a 2 square inch area. So you can just imagine that, 1 billion droplets in just 2 square inch areas. What this does, and what this droplet technology does, is it really just allows for us to touch absolutely everything. If you think about, the keys underneath your keyboard, this droplet technology can get on the back side of the keys in your keyboard. So that's really where the importance of the droplet technology comes from, and the droplet size. So getting into droplet size, if you can look kind of on the left side of the screen, you have a really, really good representation of how small that droplet can be. So we're about 1 to 10 microns, which is about 600 times the diameter, smaller than the diameter of a human hair. And, if you kind of look over here on the left-hand side, you can see micron there down at the bottom, and you can kind of see everything that's there. So white blood cells are smaller than pollen. human hair, table salt, beach sand. I mean, it's insane. And so the importance of that droplet size, if you can look up here in the right side of the screen, you can see a room full of beach balls. And if you kind of imagine a room full of beach balls, you're going to have a lot of gaps in coverage. If I were to place a single grain of sand on a desk in, let's just say, your living room, and I were to fill that room full of beach balls, what are the odds that I'm actually going to touch that grain of sand? So, not very good. So if you imagine that that grain of sand is a pathogen, and you look at normal ways that people are trying to clean and disinfect, you'll start to realize that some of these droplets, just because of how they are, the size of them, we're never actually going to touch some of these very small, harder to kill pathogens. And so then, imagine putting that grain of sand still on your desk, and I fill your entire living room with actual sand. That's really the difference, right? I'm for sure going to actually make contact with that grain of sand on your desk if I fill your entire room with sand, right? So imagine that as our droplet size. We're able to flood an entire room with droplets so small that you can't actually see them with the human eye, unless they're absolutely saturated. And we can touch absolutely everything. So that's really the advantage of the droplet technology, and that's really why the droplet size matters. Okay. The other piece of that is going to be in dust suppression. Um, I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to read this slide. Just bear with me here. In a missing system, the droplet size plays a major role. The particle and water droplet sizes should be roughly equivalent for optimal agglomeration, cluster, or stick together. The probability of impaction also increases as the size of the water droplet decreases. Because of the size of the water droplets decreases, the number of droplets increases for the droplet diameter is much greater than the diameter of the dust particle. So essentially, because our mist, what this is just saying is because our mist is so small, we can actually saturate a dust particle and drop it from suspension out of the air. So manual cleaning versus Genesis 360 misting system. Um, when you imagine manual cleaning and you think about how you guys clean your house, for instance, everybody gets their countertops. Everybody gets tabletops. Everybody tries to dust every surface that they can, but we all miss something. For instance, when was the last time that anybody really cleaned the back of their chair where they actually grab the chair and pull it out to sit down? I mean, human errors in cleaning can lead to a bunch of different issues as far as vectors of pathogens in infecting certain areas, getting on your skin. And it's the same for, hog barns. As we, have people come in and clean hog barns, I'm sure I can walk into anybody's hog barn or walk into a poultry barn or even an indoor grow facility, and I can find areas that nobody is actually cleaning. So our mist takes away that human air and covers everything 360 degrees in the space that we're trying to disinfect. Cleaning versus disinfection, right? So this is a very important understanding. So cleaning, we're just visually removing visible dirt, dust, and debris. Disinfection means we're actually getting in there and killing the pathogens, any bacteria, viruses, or fungi that are on those surfaces and neutralizing them. So we're going to get past the athletics piece. Okay. So we're going to talk now. So it's Genesis 360, the Agriguard Mist. This is the system that NFA is going to be selling. So the most important part, and really what I want everybody to know is that this system can essentially be used in almost every um, operation within agriculture that we can kind of imagine, as long as we have some type of controlled environment. And what I mean by that is, like your indoor grow facilities, hog barns, any place that we can actually contain that mist, we can be effective. This system will be, again, fully automated. It's going to be programmable we're going to have essentially programmable cycles for the end user. And it's going to be fully customizable to meet the needs of that customer or that end user. Um, so currently, we're having different configurations running in different barns, depending on airflow needs, depending on where temperature control exists, things like that. So really what we want you to know is just because you may not believe that your operation may limit the use of one of these machines, let us come in and actually look at what is going on and look at your operation, and we can go ahead and try to tailor make a solution for that based off how this machine runs. Next, we're just going to jump to some data here. So this is data coming from a barn where we used BAC, and it was an amazing result. So um, if you can look just in the improvement section, our control barn had 1,140 pigs in it. Our treated barn had about 1,185 pigs. I believe in the treated barn, we had PRRS positive pigs, which, I mean, huge issue right now in hog production. And if you can look here, we actually performed better by an extra 45 pigs and went to market, an extra, 9.5 pounds average market weight. And we had a 31% drop in death loss in PRRS positive pigs compared to control, and 27% drop in culls in PRRS positive pigs compared to the control. So we know that this system and the liquid that we're going to use, the botanical liquid BAC, is going to have a positive effect for producers. So with that being said, I'm at 32 minutes. I'd like to just kind of talk to Pat Larson here. Pat, can you just kind of summarize some of the things that you're seeing right now in your nursery trial?
Yeah, I was actually running a test on a system over at one of our test barns with the hog manager as we were just speaking. Um, we're running two different trials in two different hog barns here in Indiana. One of them is in a nursery. We've got two known barns. Um, the test barn gets about 1,700 weanlings in it, piglets, whatever you want to call it, for about a 4 to 6 week period. And the other test barn, it can hold about 1,800 head. We're running the system 3 times a day for 30 seconds. The control barn, which is what is not tested, has had a lot of death loss this cycle. They have a PRRS outbreak. They've been through scours, several different things. Their death rate has been substantially higher. We're talking double to 3 times the amount that's coming out of the test barn. The test barn did start with some scours. It never broke. These two buildings are only probably 30 yards apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's same guy going into each barn. Now, yes, he has to stop and change his boots and stuff to go into the other barn, but their security measures probably isn't the best for him to be able to go from a barn that has PERS to a barn that doesn't. They had scours in the in the test barn, but while the scours was going on, he's noticed that the pigs are staying lively. They're still up. They're still eating. Still doing well. The control side, when they were going through the scours, they just laid there and was acting like they're looking for a place to die. Said you had to walk through them and get them up, and so we're seeing great promise there. We're also running in a new tunnel barn, which is going to be a great test, because it's one of the most up to date, brand new, got every bells and whistles in it. We've been running in that barn. They double stacked one side. They've always had great luck with death loss. I think their death loss was like 1 or 2% for the last 3 cycles, so which is very low. We're seeing a lot of movement in those hogs. We're seeing a lot of better feeding. Death loss is staying on track with what they've had in the past, but it was, they've always been good in that barn, making sure they got good healthy pigs and everything else. We're getting ready to split that one side off into the other side. So there's a lot of great data coming out of there: water consumption, feed consumption, health, smell, bugs. So it's the two that we're having over here is a great test.
Perfect.
Alec, had you spoken to anything you'd been seeing in grain elevators with mycotoxin or anything? Apologize,
Yeah.
I had a technical issue at the start.
Yeah, so Pat and I went ahead and we ran a couple tests in grain elevators. And Pat, you can double check me if I'm wrong, but I think that was 250,000 bushel bins. And we started out by pulling a known sample that was contaminated with vomitoxin at right around 7 parts per million. And we went ahead and just sprayed in a wet application onto that grain, that known sample, and we knocked it down 5 points after one treatment.
No, we knocked it down to a 0.5.
0.5.
One treatment.
Yep.
10 minutes wet spray. We knocked it down to a 0.5.
I'm sorry, Jamie, did you go ahead and...
Yep. 1 second before we go any further, I'm sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and open it up for questions. So when we do that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for us. That way you guys have plenty of time to ask plenty of questions. Just want to thank Alec and Pat so very much for the wonderful presentation. So we'll do our Q&A section for the next 10-15 minutes or longer if you have some more questions. And we'll let the experts answer that for you. So if you think of a question later at any time, please reach out to your local Newfields Ag reseller or business development manager or specialty products, or you can contact the home office and we can get you to the right people. If you're jumping off now, we hope you have a very blessed day, and I'm going to go ahead and shut the recording off now.